I love that window with all the rainbow colors.
Lovely.
Good morning, everybody. We are going to cross our fingers that we don't, poor Kate does not get rained on. Yesterday it was like a storm, huge storm. So we're going to cross our fingers that we'll get through this and poor Kate won't get all drenched with rain and everything else.
I think we'll be okay.
Okay.
It doesn't feel too stormy right now, though that cloud is saying otherwise. Well,
Yeah, it was. I was worried because earlier this week it showed that it was like thunder, and I was like, "Oh, well, we can't do that. We don't want you to get electrocuted."
yeah, it was just that we had like a 2-hour thunderstorm last night, so
That's kind of
hopefully
fun,
it'll come
though.
a bit later. Oh, it's fun when you're indoors. Yeah.
Yeah, when you're indoors, not outdoors. Yeah. Well, we're getting everybody in here. I hope everybody's having a lovely Sunday and happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. I know Dawn is out there. Dawn and Ron. I do. I love those windows there. Oh, look at that cute little courtyard.
Sneaky cafe.
So we are on this morning. We are down in the lower Marais, like the very lowest part of it. We are on Rue François Miron. And I'll make sure that everybody, make sure you pin Kate's image in the top right-hand corner. There's a little blue dot. And make sure you pin her image so you can see it and then see all of the pictures from Paris and then still hear me. This is just to kind of give you a little reference to right behind Kate is also the St. Paul metro stop. I was thinking of starting at that church there because I love that church. You can kind of see at the right is kind of sticking up, but we'll go a different day. The St. Paul St. Louis church that has a Delacroix in it. Of course, we have a Wallace fountain. I always love seeing those. I'm going to go when I'm there this fall. Kate, we need to go scour out all the colored ones. They're all kind of in the higher. They're like 15th in the higher arrondissement, but there's like red one and there's a blue one and a bright pink one.
We can do a day.
Yeah, we'll go scour them out. Yeah. Oh, Dawn, enjoy your almond croissant. That sounds delicious. So we are on François Miron, and this building right here, this gorgeous building right off the top. I love this building. And actually, it stretches all the way around the corner, even though it kind of looks like the building to the left of it looks a little bit different. This was owned in, this one dates back to the 18th century in 1707. It was the Hôtel du Président Hainaut, and it was done by architect Edmé Fourier, and it was for Charles Jean-François Hainaut. And it was basically, he was a big figure during the early 18th century. He held weekly dinners there that everybody from Montesquieu to Marquise de Pompadour would attend until the king stopped it in 1731. He didn't like all these intellectual people getting together. And that was Louis XV. So that's kind of, he was a little bit more okay with people doing that, unlike Louis XIV. But he actually was a historian and he wrote quite a few books. And Voltaire actually said that he is the only man that taught the French their own history. And I really like that because I always am told by French friends and people in France that I know more about French history than the French people do. So I really like this guy. So he ended up later being the superintendent for Queen Marie, who was the wife of Louis XV. This building now is actually the European House of Photography. It's open to the public. So we saw that little cafe in there, but it's open to the public. It stretches all the way around that corner. And on that corner, there's a more modern building and it attaches to this. And it's open and every day but Monday and Tuesday. I have notes that I will email to you afterwards. So if I don't have your email address, send it to me and I'm happy to do that. And I just have a note in there of the address where it is and when you could go in there and check it out. They do exhibits all the time. I haven't been in that museum yet, or the European House of Photography, I guess it is. But I'm going to go check it out this next time. I do remember on the opposite wall on that street, there was these little tiles of all these little photographs. It was some sort of art installation, and one of them was Wonder Woman. So I noticed that years ago when I was there. I like that. So we'll keep heading down the street a little bit. And there's another gorgeous building coming up here on the left. Who doesn't love a good door? When you have all those carvings and the balconies and everything, it's even better. So this beautiful building up here on the left, number 68, it was built in 1655 by Pierre de Beauvais. It was built for a woman named Catherine Baillier. And the more I looked into her, the more interesting things I found. She was the first maid to Queen Anne d'Autriche, who was the mother of Louis XIV, of course. She was given this property to have a place built on it by the Queen because she did something very special for the Queen, we could say. She was asked to deflower the king. So at 14 years old, this Catherine was asked to, have some relations with the young Louis XIV. He was 14 years old. And the reason why Catherine was chosen, and this is just horrible, and every time I looked something up about her, it just got worse. So she apparently was a hunchback. She apparently had one eye, and she was said to be quite ugly, is the exact historical words that I found. There's no images of her, there's no paintings of her, but inside the courtyard, there is one of the mascarons, the little faces like you see over the window. There's apparently one of her. I saw a picture of it on the internet, and it's really worn away from the elements and everything else. But it's just her face. So you don't get to see if she in fact had a hunchback or any of those other things. But I just had to laugh because it just kept getting worse. And I think if I keep researching, we'll find out she had, a extra arm or who knows what else. But she ended up getting a palace out of it. But they ended up later on in 1770. She was quite close with Anne d'Autriche. And then in 1770, when Louis XIV rode through Paris with his new bride, Queen Marie, he ended up going right past there, and they were all in the balcony watching. You have that's one of the cutest, most popular bakeries because it is so adorable. It has really cute paintings inside that some of them actually are quite old. The Au Petit Versailles. But it's such a little cute street. Look, everything's coming back to life.
We've got our masks off.
Oh, yes, that's right. No more masks and no more curfew.
Yeah, curfew ends tonight. Yeah.
Yay. And for Americans that are vaccinated, you no longer need a COVID test, a negative COVID test to get in there. That just happened too.
Oh.
That's exciting. I do always love seeing all the little florists in Paris. These two buildings that were coming up here on the right, for a long time, there was a battle in Paris for some of the oldest buildings in Paris. And this does look quite old. But there was a couple different locations, including, oh my gosh, why can't I think of his name? Everybody knows him. A lot of people know him because of Harry Potter. Flamel, Nicholas Flamel.
Flamel, yeah.
A lot of people, there was like a war between these two buildings of which one is older. But because this one is the half timber, it looks quite old, and it is quite old. It was one time completely covered up though with plaster. And so it was built in 1508. In 1607, it was covered up with plaster for fire protection. It looks quite old. You have this little side of it that kind of juts out. A lot of times it did that because people would throw their waste, and I don't mean their garbage, out the window. And so does it look like there's a business in there, Kate? Because the one on the right,
Yeah.
well, that one, but on the right, it used to be a swingers club.
It might well be. It looks very secret.
It looks very secret. Yeah, so it's really funny because it's like this is quite the scandalous walk today. So this for a long time, because here it's this amazing old building, so interesting, and then it had a swingers club. So it might still be there because it is kind of secretive. But I think this is the building, this one or the one on the left that was on the show everybody loves, the House Hunters International. They did an episode where one of those apartments was actually somebody was interested in buying it. So that was kind of cool to get to see inside. Also on this street, I think we might have already passed it, but there is what's the number across the street, Kate? This numbers
32.
What number? 52?
32.
Oh, okay. It might be
going down as we go along.
Yeah, and this is one of those streets that the opposite side of the street is like, 90.
Yes. So we're at 13 on this side.
Yeah.
And 32 on the other.
Yeah. It's kind of strange. But we might have gone right past it there. It's actually a really cool old place. Oh no, we're coming up to it. It's 44. Sorry, Kate.
All right.
There's so many people out. It's so good to see.
Oh no, we've gone past it because we're at number 28.
Oh goodness.
We're gonna go back. Here we go.
Going back. The numbers are so strange because where we started, it was 52 on the left, and on the right it was like 92 or 95. It's very, very strange. Napoleon might have been the one that that started the whole numbering of the street, but some of them just don't make sense. This one right here. So this little building right here, it says open to the public. Probably not today, but it's a Paris Historique, and look, it is open. So this is a really cool little place. It is actually was the Hôtel de Ville, and it is, as you could tell, it's one of my favorite places because it sells all of these history of Paris books, really interesting things that you can't normally find at many of the stores. But underneath it actually has, you could go down below if you kind of sweet talk them. They do kind of do little organized tours, but down below, because this was originally built, this building itself was built in 1585. Up above, see that picture on the glass right above you? There's Kate in the window. So that is what you could get to find underneath it. And so in the 13th century, this was a former monks. It was a former abbey of the Cistercian monks, and it was the Notre Dame d'Orscon. And it is, they're still, they're slowly doing some renovation on it. Oh, that book there, the one that's green, is an amazing book. It's all in French, but that is an amazing book about crazy stuff about every single street in the older streets in Paris, like by building by building. It's one of my favorites. So this building, you could go in there, and they're slowly restoring it. And you go down this teeny tiny winding stairs, and you could go check it out. They're happy to show you if you seem like you're really interested in it, which I'm sure all of you would be. It is also, if you aren't able to go and see this, if you go down in the Louvre and you go down below, there is the little room that was dedicated to Saint Louis. And they found that in the 1980s and unearthed it, and that you can see in the bottom of the Louvre, and that gives you a lot of that same feeling. It's kind of very similar to that, but it's really cool to go see that. It all goes back to the 13th century, these stone pillars. Oh, we were so taken up by the sex club on the right that we missed it.
Number 13, for those that want to know.
I wasn't gonna
Apparently-
research. I wasn't gonna like Google that one.
Yeah. Apparently, weirdly, we also have one in Montmartre in what, you know, that really old turret building down.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that's apparently also a swingers club. So maybe all the ancient buildings are swingers club.
Yeah, I think there's quite a few from some of the things I've heard from some people that I know would
Say no more.
exactly. I'm like, oh, okay, that's great. Yes, I will see you tomorrow. So further down the street, we are coming up. I love these little stairs here on the left. And you can see in the distance, you can see the Hôtel de Ville. On the right is where they have a wonderful market that they do outside. I love that little street to come down. That's the Rue de Marais, which is always one of like people say one of the most beautiful streets. But they put a little market over here on the right side a lot of the times. I can't remember. I've come across it a couple times. I can't remember which day it was.
I think we need to go down this street to get into the church.
Oh, we do? Okay.
We do, yeah.
They changed it.
Okay, or should I? Yeah, this is the only way in.
Hopefully they won't be having a service like they did last week. And Kate said there's a lady sitting at the desk. So we're going to have to she's going to have to hide the camera when we walk in and then we'll pop back up. We have to be sneaky.
It's very quiet just now, so I think we'll be okay, but we'll just, have to avoid the lady.
Yeah, this is a great street. It looks like it's, I wouldn't mind some more timbered houses. If you keep going down, it's that you head right to the river and there's Chez Julien on if you go all the way down. And then there's a street that has the steps, the big, huge steps.
Oh,
are we gonna hide now?
There's music happening.
Oh,
okay. Well, it's like a flute. We'll see what's going on.
Hopefully.
One sec.
Sneaky. We'll see. Hopefully we don't get in trouble again. Oh, is she not? I don't think she's there. This is a gorgeous church. This is the Église Saint-Gervais. It has quite a little historic significance too. This church here, there has been a church here since 387. It was the very first church on this spot was built outside of Ile de la Cité. And so this was the first church on the right bank. And it popped up over here. The current church dates back to 1494, and it took 150 years to complete because it stopped for a little bit in the middle for the wars of religion. You can see it has some really amazing stained glass, some more contemporary, like the ones in that church. This is another one that has the really cool kind of all the really neat, beautiful archways. It has so much light. Usually there's not a lot of people in this church. I've come in here somewhat early in the morning, and one time I just about fell over a chair. There was a few people sleeping in the church kind of back in the corners, and one of them moved and I didn't know somebody was back there, and I just about completely freaked out. It scared me to death. But it is a gorgeous church. It definitely looks like it's been restored in the last few years because those paintings are in such great condition. I love it when they have these arches on the side that you kind of walk through, because you just get this beautiful pictures of from one to the other. And the Chapel of the Virgin, of course, back here. Different from last weekend when it was up towards the front of the church. Usually it's always in the back. The Chapel of the Virgin, this part of the church is the oldest part. It was built in 1517, so they started from the back and worked their way up. The stained glass windows also still date back to that time. They were restored under the Second Empire by Victor Bautar, who is our friend that we talked about. He's the one that lived on Place de Furstenberg, and he is the one that created those wonderful market stalls at Les Halles. He restored quite a few of the churches in Paris, most of our favorite ones, Saint-Eustache, Saint-Germain-des-Prés. He created most of those, or restored most of those, I should say, not created. I love it when they have the statues in here. Nice and quiet. It's so good this way because Kate could be quiet and I could still be telling you. When I'm there and I'm going to do a bunch of videos, I'm not sure how I'm going to have to be like super whispery. This is the tomb of Michel Letellier. He was a chancellor, and there's all of those great statues around him. I love the bottom of that tomb. I love what the face is on it. It's so cool. It was done by Pierre Mazarin. He created all of this. That guy looks kind of scary though. He's got his eyebrows are kind of up like, But look how amazing that is. Look at those curls. I'm still just like, I could see 1,000 statues and I still am just amazed of what they could do with carving marble in like hundreds of years ago. It's just amazing. So smooth and so perfect. Like when you see, have you all seen Michelangelo's David in Florence, and you look at like the veins in his hands, like it's just like astounding. It's just, so gorgeous. These are just some of the more modern, the contemporary windows. Isn't this heavy? Has anybody been in this church? It's so gorgeous. And we'll show you the facade. We'll go back, when we go back out, we'll go out to the facade and show you. See, I just love those. See how you get to see the next one? Oh, so great. And see, it's a pretty quiet church. I think we've only seen a few people. Lots of don't sit in these seats signs. Hopefully some of that will remain. We could all have a little space. We're in the south transept this time. And this is, of course, a church that it's the interior is kind of more the shape of the cross. So you have the north and south transepts. There is, oh, Angela, yes, love this church. We stayed very close on your first trip. Oh, that's great. See, look at that. Oh, so gorgeous. I can't wait to be back inside all these churches. The churches here, at least in Oregon, do not look like this at all. I was excited we have a really beautiful Episcopalian church from the outside. Inside, not so much. It does not look like this. So this church had a pretty horrific episode that actually happened here. Was there another person over there? On March 29th, 1918, during World War I, the Germans fired a gun, the Prézier Canon gun, and a lot of people think it was Big Bertha, but it was actually a different one. But they said they were actually intended to hit Notre Dame. Well, they ended up hitting this church. It went over the south transept where we just were. I think to the left of this is on the wall. Is there a big carving of the facade of the church? Okay, it might be the next one. I think it's that one. Up there on the right, on the side of the wall. It's like a huge replica of the facade, I think. Oh no, Guess it's the next one. One of them has it. Anyway, so on March 29th, this giant shell hit the church. It went through the south transept, crushed through the building. It was on Good Friday, and 92 people were killed. All the stones, everything came flying down. There's still some marks on the side of the church where you could still see the indentions. Look at how gorgeous that is. Oh, love it. But it was the deadliest event in World War I in Paris. So 92 people were killed. Just about as many of them were injured. And the church was later, of course, as we know, it was repaired and rebuilt. But it was pretty horrific. There is actually, in the spot where it's at, there's a plaque and that was created there to mark that the loss of all of those people. How frightening would that be? But it was intended for Notre Dame, so their mark was a little bit off. Oh, there it is. So this is really cool because it has actually the facade of the church here. And it's really neat. This church is the facade. We'll go see the real thing outside. But it is much like Saint-Sulpice. So in Saint-Sulpice, on the front of it, it's very the French classicism. You have the different columns, the bottom being the Doric column, which is the most kind of more plain with the Doric capital. The next level up is the Ionic one, which they say is the feminine one. And then the top of it is the Corinthian, which is my favorite, which is the really fancy one, which I think that should be the more feminine one. But the Ionic is the one with the kind of the scrolling loops on the side. That is what Catherine de Medici, that they used a lot on the Palais des Tuileries, because it was considered the feminine capital. And so that was used on the Medici. There's statues on it. We'll see outside because I don't think you see them on there. But there's statues on the front of with Saint Gervais. And then there's also Saint John, the evangelist, and Saint Matthew on the facade. But it's a gorgeous church. You must go see it when you are there, and you'll see, so we have an entrance and exit. Are they going to let us out this time? Oh, good. So right there, that tree. So this tree is just, it's a very special tree. It's not just any old tree. This tree is actually, and a funny little saying came from this. This is the Place Saint-Gervais. At the intersection there is an elm tree. An elm tree has been in this spot since the 1300s. It was planted there. It has always had like a little kind of a railing, a little chains around it. The tree has always been this close to the church because after church, the pastor would go out there and there would be a judge, and people would basically go to this tree to pay their debt. So they would be paying rent. They paid off bills. They settled judicial issues all around this tree. And there was a phrase that everybody would use called, "I'll meet you at the elm." And that was basically like, if you owed somebody money, you would just say that. And even later when you didn't actually do it at the elm tree, they still would have this saying. So the current tree right now that you see there was planted in the 1930s. But the tree has stood there over time and been replanted. In the 15th century, that's where a farmer would go to actually pay the rent for their farms that they were using to their owners. Would go out there to the tree. So it's really cool. There's a railing right around the corner from the church on a building, and on the iron railings, it's actually in there. In the church, there is actually the carved wooden pew area that was for kind of like the nobles of the church. the tree is carved into that. So you actually see the tree depicted in quite a few things around there. So it's kind of a special, cool tree to have there to go see. There's even one of the oars, the plaques, the historical plaques across the street from the tree that talks all about it. If you see those oars in Paris, definitely stop, and I always take photos of them and stop and read them. Those are probably the most accurate thing you will see on a building. Sometimes the plaques on the building, it takes a lot to get one done. John was trying to get one done he lives in the building where Sylvia Beach lived. He was trying to get one done for that. And he said that the hoops, of course, you had to jump through to get that to happen, were kind of so ridiculous, but anybody could put anything on a plaque. So there are a few, like the one that's on the building on Rue d'Escar where Hemingway had rented a room for his office. It says that he lived there, and the years are incorrect. So don't always take everything as gospel when you see those plaques. But the big ones, the ones that look like an oar, they were done by Philippe Starck. Those are done by the city, so those should be a lot more accurate. We are now at the Hôtel de Ville, which is probably why we have a police officer there. I love the Hôtel de Ville. There's lots of people. This is one of their favorite buildings in the whole entire city because it is absolutely gorgeous. We're gonna, this side of the cute little park is closed, but the other side is open. So we're gonna go check that out. The Hôtel de Ville, of course, this version of it was created from a past version that ended up catching on fire during the Commune, set on fire and burned for days. And then they rebuilt this one from the original plans. We have this statue. We could see him from inside. There is a equestrian statue right here that will show you from inside this cute little park. You would never even know this was a little park if it didn't have a sign. It's a little jardin, and there's usually, and we're sad because they're not there today, but there's a chicken coop in there and also rabbits. And again, I was in there one day and didn't know what was rustling, and it scared me to death, and it was a rabbit. So it's this adorable little park here. It's the Jardin des Combattants de la Nueve. It is dedicated to the Spanish Republicans that helped fight the liberation of Paris in August of 1944. Apparently there's a little event that they do. See, this is where you find the chickens and the rabbits. There's a little event that they do in August of 1940, every year on the 24th. So I'll go check that out this year. But it's this cute little teeny park. No chickens.
No rabbits.
No bunny rabbit. And then we have this fantastic statue that we're going to see. This is the statue of Etienne Marcel. He was the provost of the Merchants of Paris, which was basically a mayor. He was basically the mayor of Paris. He was kind of considered the first mayor of Paris. He stands watch over this. He built the first building here, what was the Maison aux Pillars, which was built on this spot on the Place de Grève. This was known as the Place de Grève. That actually has a pretty horrible history. It's now the Place Hôtel de Ville that's on the other side. Look at all the roses in bloom. So pretty. He was a very close advisor to Jean Le Bon. I always think of Simon Le Bon when I see his name. He ended up later, his own men kind of revolted against him and assassinated him. So he aligned himself with the English. Sorry, Kate. He aligned himself with the English, and his men got upset and they ended up killing him. But you can see all the beautiful roses. This is really pretty because there's like a little, I think there's some steps and like an entryway into the Hôtel de Ville here. on this back side, and the mayor's office. That is a very small little area. Football. The statue is really cool. This is like those trees below it. If you get there next spring, it's really hard to time to make sure you're there during the cherry blossoms because so many factors depend on when you're there. But those trees are like just huge, giant pink, poofy mounds of cotton candy. They're so beautiful. And so it's a really cool picture to get those with old Etienne there. Normally you could go through one side to the other of this little park. But right above this in that upper corner is where the mayor's office is. When Patrimoine days, I hope all of you are there sometime for the third weekend of September, because the Hôtel de Ville is open for that. It's really the only time you could get inside and see anymore since the terrorist attacks many years ago. You used to be able to go in there on one day a week, and now you could only go during Patrimoine. It is amazing inside. They do an amazing job with the tour. I think I was in there for 3 hours. And you get to just see, it weaves you through. You even go to the mayor's office, which is kind of cool, which is on this corner overlooking towards Notre Dame. It's really beautiful. So the building itself dates back, the original building dates back to 1537. It was created by François Premier. His architect, Le Boccador, was an Italian. He had already been working with him to do some work on the chateaus in Blois and Amiens. And so he loved anything that had to do with the Renaissance. He got that from his mother, who fell in love with the Italian Renaissance. Francois Premier was basically kind of the one that transformed the office of the King of France from being a medieval to what we kind of think of it today with, the parties and the grandeur and everything. He loved the Renaissance. So he wanted a building that would basically show that. So although today, the building we see today is not the one he built, it was built off of the plans that Le Boccador had created. So it is larger than the original version, but it is a lot of it was built exactly like the original ones. So that's pretty cool. So we could still see it. When it was built, it started basically, the first part of it started closer to the Seine, back where we were. And then over time, it kept getting added onto. He ended up dying. His son, Henry II, took it on. And then Henry IV also kept adding to it. Henry IV had a relief of himself, as one does, on the building that was later destroyed. Then our friend Louis XIV, he placed a giant bronze statue of himself in there that is now at the Carnavalet. So you could go see that there in the courtyard. So they all added onto it. On the facade itself, there's 338 statues. All of those statues that you could see there on that second level, and all the way around the building, are basically artists and different politicians and writers and industrialists that influenced France. So you have, of course, back on the corner where we were in the garden, there's one of Delacroix. There's a couple women on there. There's George Sand is on there. Not very many, of course, but there are a few. But they are 338 of them. One Sunday morning, it was early, and I got up and with my notebook and walked around, took pictures of every one of them and made a map of which ones were where on the building. It took me a few hours, but I love doing that. You could kind of see where the Italian influence on this is over those windows where the little pediment is. It's very angular. There's not a lot of decoration on it, so that's more Italian. The doors, the railings, everything on this building is gorgeous. I love the top, like that right there, Kate, is an amazing image. If everybody could see kind of at the top, you have all these little men that kind of line the top of the building. I love those little guys. It's one of my favorite parts. And of course, the beautiful lamps that are here. It's a gorgeous building. And at night, like you have to see this in the day, but you have to go see it at night because the way they light it up is just gorgeous. And if you are there and you could try to get there in September, you definitely need to go see the inside of this building. It is absolutely amazing inside. It is sadly the original, the Delacroix and Ingres, among other painters, had done these huge murals and on the ceilings and created all this stuff. It was all lost to the fire in 1871. But other huge events in the city happened here on October 4th, 1789. The large group of women gathered here to protest the fact that they were running out. There was no bread and there was no wheat. So they ended up, it was mostly women were here. They gathered up some weapons and they marched all the way out to Versailles. They walked all the way there and it was muddy and raining and gross. And they got out there and then they went to one of the city buildings and protested. And finally, they ended up actually getting them. They ended up going to the king himself, Louis the 16th, and he agreed and said, yes, make sure we have food and we have flour, we have everything. But he was inside. There was one of his ministers was in there, and a representative of one of the women was. When she walked in there and she met him, she fainted. But the news did not get out to the people outside, and they were out there overnight. They were getting angry. They ended up rushing one of the guards, killing him, chopping off his head, putting it on a stick, which I still don't understand why that was a thing, because that's just gross, and ended up breaking in to Versailles. And you kind of all know what happened next. They ended up going in there. They ended up calling out Marie Antoinette onto the balcony to where she finally just she held her head up, walked out on the balcony. And then they ended up having to leave Versailles, never to go back there again. And you know what happens later on. But in 1792, when the commune was established, they ended up also going in here, grabbing some guns and anything else they could, and oil, and ended up going to the Tuileries, which is where Louis the 16th and Marie Antoinette had been for 3 years, and basically stormed in there. They ended up escaping and running through the Jardin des Tuileries. And anybody that opposed them, they killed them. Later on, of course, in 1871, they had the fire that destroyed the building, was also part of the commune that they did. There was two, it gets confusing because there was actually a governmental group called the commune that was established in the Hôtel de Ville. It's different than what is the commune. Oh, do we have a little Instagram TikToking going on over there?
TikToking as a fun.
TikToking.
Yeah. Have you seen the installations that they have here?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They always have something going on. Oh, there you go. They always have something going on. There is actually also a exhibit that goes until October that's dedicated to Simone Ville, which I can't wait to go see.
This is one of the installations of hers.
Oh, great.
Of her quote.
They had one at the outside the Pantheon, you know, not long after she was buried there. And it was like just reading all the stuff. I think I was just standing there crying, reading all of it. What an amazing woman and life that she had. If you guys don't know, she was captured during World War II. She by the Nazis, and she, you know, the horrible tattoo on her arm of the numbers, that she ended up later, I think she was like basically the president of the EU for a short period of time. She was an amazing woman. We're definitely going to do an episode about her for the podcast. That over there is the BHV department store, the Bazaar de l'Hôtel de Ville. It started in 1822 by Xavier Rouet, who came from Lyon. He first set up a tiny little store on the Rue de Rivoli right there, selling knitted goods, hats and sweaters and things like that. In 1856, he created this store on the spot, and added more and more buildings here. Of course, we're near Saint-Martin and Sephora. Sephora is a French company. Did you know that? Made me even like it even more. So over here on the right, Kate, if we just like maybe go down this street.
Yeah, so there's a Pride March happening, which is, so I don't know if they're gonna block off the whole street.
Oh, well,
but
we could
I will
see all
go down
sorts
here
of
for now.
stuff.
That's why there's all these
That's why the police.
vans.
So on the right, this might be a little different now because of the way the museums are working, because of trying to capture how many people. But if you go there after all of that kind of is done, on the right, I think we froze, is where that red sign is the City of Paris tourist office. And this is one of like my greatest little secrets is you go in there and get